Hello and welcome to our Retire Early Lifestyle YouTube channel. We're going to get right into this very important information today. Are you tired of spinning on the hamster wheel, dreaming of a better life where you can actually enjoy your free time? We're diving into the reality of work-life balance in Europe, exploring whether it's all it's cracked up to be. This video will give you some interesting things to think about and provide our viewers with a perspective about work-life balance that perhaps you may not have thought about. Some people are still really gung-ho about moving to Europe to get a job for a better work-life balance or see it as the place to retire early and maybe get a side hustle. Unfortunately, most people are misled down the yellow brick road to believing they will have a better opportunity to balance out their life in Europe. We're told that Europe is the be-all end-all for having work-life balance. You see it all over the internet and people proclaim it all over in their vlogs and blogs. You mean to tell us that you have to move to Europe to achieve work-life balance in your lifestyle? Bah humbug! Are people really falling for this nonsense? We disagree with that assessment, and here's why. Work-life balance is something that we create for ourselves wherever we happen to live. It is through our choices we make and the attitude we have that gives us the lifestyle we want. That's why we're going to look at comments such as this and dissect it with some very important insights. Work-life balance is better in Europe than in the US. Is this really true? And if it's true, why would it be true? On a straight comparison, one could say an employee here in the US has it worse than an employee there in Europe, or an employee has it much better over there. But work-life balance is better in Europe for Europeans, but it won't necessarily be better for Americans that are moving there. And here's why. We're going to talk about how in Europe they take longer vacations, work less hours, take longer lunch times, and enjoy every moment of their time off from work. Wow, that sounds great, doesn't it? Well, don't jump the gun so fast. As we all know, with many things in life, we have to make sacrifices. And in the case of Americans jetting off to Europe for this better work-life balance routine, you will be utterly and totally thrown off balance from your normal day-to-day lifestyle. That's because you come from a totally and utterly different type of work culture than Europe. Let's start with how Europeans take longer vacations. In most of Europe, employers actually mandate that their employees take 4 weeks of paid vacation off per year. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. Europeans work fewer hours than Americans, and that's exactly how they like it. The fewer hours they have at the workplace, the more family and playtime hours they'll get in the day and week. Do you see how that works? In countries like Spain, France, Greece, Portugal, and Italy, when they aren't working, they are enjoying time off with family, extended family, and or friends. In Europe, it's important to take time off from work and take pleasure in life. But again, it's just how the culture is. Employers won't let them work overtime, even if they wanted to. Work-life balance is very important to Europeans. Because work-life balance is important in Spanish families, they choose to not work long hours and become burnt out. I want to emphasize this point because employers know their employees want fewer hours, so the employers make it happen. It's just part of the culture in Europe, especially Southern Europe. Work-life balance has always been a big aspect of the culture, mostly in the Southern European countries. The funny thing is Americans want more hours in the day so they can earn more money. That's the American work culture. Please note the willingness of Americans to work more to earn more. Perhaps a change in perspective is in order. This brings me to the next aspect of work-life balance in Europe, the siesta and la comida in the afternoon. Italy, France, Greece, Portugal, and Spain, and maybe a few others participate in taking several hours off for la comida, or lunch. Some folks even go home and take a nap after eating their main meal of the day. In the US, this is unheard of. 6 countries with the longest lunch breaks in the world, and out of those 6, 4 countries are Greece, Spain, France, and Italy. Italy takes off more hours than 90 minutes, though. We know that because we were there. La comida, the midday meal, as it is called in Spain, is the largest meal of the day, and it's definitely a big meal and typically includes multiple courses and wine. So they have to go home and take a nap before going back to work. So how do lunch breaks in Europe compare to those in the United States? Well, lunch breaks in Europe tend to be longer and more leisurely compared to those in the United States. In the U.S., it's common for employees to take a 30-minute lunch break or even eat at their desks while working. So how do lunch breaks impact the European work culture? Well, lunch breaks are an important part of European work culture, providing employees with a much-needed break in the middle of the day. This allows them to relax and recharge, leading to higher productivity and job satisfaction. And finally, on to the last aspect of work-life balance in Europe is how Europeans generally do not work overtime. In fact, in most European countries, they discourage working overtime, and some employers simply do not allow it. They want productive, well-rested employees. Well, that's fair enough. Because Europeans strive to bring work and life to a balance, many work habits and attitudes that seem normal to Americans are taboo in Europe, such as talking about business during lunch hours and sending business emails during after hours. In Germany, it's frowned upon to send work emails after hours due to a cultural norm called, excuse me if I pronounce this wrong, Feierabend. The evening rest period is what it means. And of course, in Europe, Southern Europe mostly, family and personal time is sacred. In many countries, it's true, work hours are structured to accommodate family time, and working overtime is often discouraged. So the core theme we're seeing is that in Europe, they value the family unit and provide many generous allowances, such as fewer working hours, with a mandated 4 weeks paid vacation, and they discourage overtime work. They enjoy leisurely lunches, and when they aren't working, they make sure they are enjoying time with family and friends. It's great the Europeans have taken this position. It's a more relaxed lifestyle, and it works great for the Europeans because it is their culture. It's how it works over there. Now, any of you that has been to Europe, you probably already know that the customer service in Europe is not that great. In fact, they don't care about making the customer happy. The customer is not usually right in parts of Europe, so that's what you're dealing with. So we showed you the work-life balance routine of Southern European countries to give you an idea of how it works over there. Now let's talk about how an American will fit into this work-life balance they are told is so much better than the USA. Are you ready? We can certainly understand why there is such a big pull to move to Europe for a better work-life balance. However, if an American moves to Europe for the work-life balance, will they achieve it? Maybe, maybe not. It depends on how they do it. Here is our rebuttal on the whole thing, and here it comes, and you knew it was coming. With everything in life, there are trade-offs. For one thing, just because the Europeans enjoy their work-life balance doesn't mean you will enjoy the same. Number one, you're not European, you're American. You have the American cultural habits written all over you. Americans have work habits that may be challenging to overcome, such as they're used to gobbling down lunch real quick just so they can get back to work in 30 minutes. Why do we think we can remove ourselves from our own familiar environment and culture and move into a foreign environment, and all of a sudden we'll be like that culture? In this case, it's the work-life culture of Europe. Have you ever asked yourself, what would you do during a 2 or 3 hour lunch break? I see Americans getting bored in a foreign country, unable to speak the language outside of their working environment, and really just getting lonely and bored. Europeans love their work life because when they're not working, they're with their families. They're going out to eat in restaurants with their children and spouses, or with other family members, or they're in a family member's home for those long 3-hour lunches with 5-course meals. They're going to soccer matches with family members, spouses, and friends, or maybe they're getting some sun, sand, and surf on one of their great beaches. Who are you going to be with, and what are you going to do while on a 2 or 3 hour lunch break from your work? Your family and friends are back in your home country. Remember, you left America and all of your loved ones for the work-life balance enticement that was touted to you from the vested interests. We don't mean anything bad by that, but your family is back home, and you have 3 hours to just do nothing during a lunch break. What are you going to do with yourself? Work-life balance has everything to do with attitude and what we want for our lives. Some Europeans don't see finances or earning money as important as Americans do, and is one reason why they don't work as hard and as long, which allows them to actually stop and smell the roses. Americans only stop to smell the roses when they're on vacation, and even then, they're probably talking to the boss or collaborating with coworkers about projects while they're on the beach on a vacation. It's really not that funny. And then there is the salary change. Unless you're moving to Iceland, Germany, UK, Switzerland, Ireland, or Scotland, the pay scale is not what you're used to, although you must have already known that, right? We think that it will be easier to achieve work-life balance in Europe because the Europeans are doing it, but that's not the whole picture. In reality, we see most Americans really not adapting well to all the work changes. It might work as a youngish digital nomad who is not fixed in their lifestyle habits yet, or someone who has a pension coming in and perhaps does something on the side if they wish, such as a side hustle. But to just work as an employee at a job, Americans will not favor it too much, and reality shows most Americans will not last. The cultural work habits and attitude about work and playtime are so different from what Americans are used to. And then, of course, the pay scale is not what you're used to either. That will set your standard of living back quite a bit from what you're used to. Those first couple of paychecks is going to leave you gasping. Will you be able to even pay your way in a country where prices keep rising for the foreigner? Remember, there are two economies unless you go local, but then you need to speak the language and fit in well to the culture for that. In all reality, it's not looking good for most Americans to move clear across continents to a foreign country just to get a job so you can have a so-called better work-life balance and early retirement. I don't know. We're not seeing it. We're not going to promote Europe as being the place where you're going to find that work-life balance that you are seeking, and to do so haphazardly like everyone else is doing is really a terrible disfavor. If you really want to get off the treadmill, there are far better ways to do it than to move to a foreign country and trying to fit into an unfamiliar culture. You first must look outside of this workforce mentality and then look within yourself. Here's what we mean.
Being industrious is part of having a balanced life, and part of having a balanced life is having enough time to enjoy life, as opposed to delaying your life and then waiting for your quote-unquote retirement. If you look at like our life hasn't changed since our 20s. We say that a lot in our videos, and it's not just about going abroad or being abroad. I also don't want to make it sound like the way to have a balanced life is just to go abroad. It is something we did do. We did it 12 years ago. We spent 8 years in Ecuador. Regardless what we were doing, we were always enjoying our life while also being industrious at the same time. There's what we call micro enterprise, which we occasionally talk about. We have talked about in some of our videos. Without going into detail, it's a video all of its own, and I have made several of those videos on micro enterprise. Nowadays they call it side hustle. Unfortunately, the side hustle terminology, I don't accept side hustle terminology. Here's why. Side hustle is something that people on the treadmill add to their treadmill. You see what I'm saying? I'm talking about not living a life of imbalance. if you run an imbalance in your life for too long, because you've got this number, this figure you're trying to achieve, what happens is that other things in your life get destroyed. Now, our minds and our bodies, they can withstand quite a bit of pressure, but if we do it for too long and we cross into the twilight zone, into the barrier where we cause too much damage, then it's a lot harder, if not impossible, to bounce back from that damage. And people's health is destroyed, people's lives, people's relationships are destroyed, you name it. So no, I don't use the term side hustle, because that's just another Lego or another block you're adding to your delayed gratification. So what we call it is micro-enterprising. The reason we call it micro-enterprise, it's not just a label, it's exactly what it is. It's intentionally built on a micro size. So we keep it small intentionally because it's designed to give us life. So the micro-enterprise doesn't take away life like the side hustle does. You've heard the saying, the true cost of a thing is how much life you're willing to give for it. And what that means is that how much of your life are you giving for the thing that you are attempting to attain. And so I'm saying that if we keep it on a level of balance, and so that's another slant that you can do. You can take the skills that you have, that you're selling to your employer, you're selling them by the hour or salary, and you can turn around and go get your own clients. And even if you only get 2 to 4 hours a day worth of clients, why, bingo, you just hit the nail on the head. You can take the skills that you have and you can turn it into a micro enterprise. Now, another thing that I do differently than some of these other people is that I don't promote places. We've got some huge challenges with the live abroad thing because most of these places are really tiny, and you got millions of people retiring, and just in North America, if you add Europe and Australia and all of those, and you globally promote, which there are hucksters out there. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to say that. I meant Retire Abroad Media, that their sole purpose in life is to create these bubbles so they can profit off the real estate while destroying the locals' lives. And you see now, we've been saying this for the whole 12 years. We were some of the first people that were saying this 10 to 12 years ago, but now you see videos of people talking about gentrification, and you didn't see those videos back then, but we were still talking about it anyway. So I don't promote a place because I think that it isn't necessary to play follow the leader. I call it follow the leader, and people just go where everybody else goes. And I think that you can actually it is possible to pretty much go wherever you want, without really, even in North America, you can go wherever you want. You don't have to go. Nowadays, there's people making blogs and videos about cities in America even. So you don't have to go, 10 cheapest cities in America. And you don't have to go to.
We cannot guarantee a better life for you when you go abroad. When you move abroad, you're on your own, and soon enough, you'll figure that out. Please do your research and keep watching our videos, because we'll keep providing you with the information you need to assist you in your early retirement and work-life balance. Take care and bye-bye.